pastoral type to a forested type landscape. And so we think that what's happening here is not only reduced labor, but more water on the landscape, very difficult to control, and so we see a complete shift. By the time you get up to the modern period, 1700 or so, then the forest has declined again, the allness has declined. Clearly, the ability to drain the basin has changed, and we now see the human imprint on the landscape of a modern forest, which is not as many trees as there were during this reforested period, but more trees than there were during the medieval time. Okay? And so, and there's not as many herbs as there were during this period, but more than during this period. And so what we think during the modern times is that you have good management of your forests in association with agriculture taking place down on the basin, which is a combination of better forest than we had and much better management than we saw during medieval time, but still more, much more open land than we would have seen during medieval time. So this is kind of the third phase, the modern phase. And there's a variety of interesting details we see here, including the increase in cypress, which is probably built trees that have been planted for windbreaks or along roads or around cemeteries. And we see an increase in olive again, which is probably associated with production of olive. We've got a lot more work to do. What I showed you was simply the results from this core, short core here. We now have a 15-meter-long core from that same lake, where we're going to extend this pollen record and ideally get all the way back into the Roman and potentially the pre-Roman period. Okay? And we're not only working on Lungo, but we have now cores over in Ripa Sottile and Ventina. One of the things that we've been able to do is measure the magnetic susceptibility in these records, and we can correlate one core to another. Here's a core taken in 2009 from Lungo, 2010 from Lungo, 2010 from Ripa Sottile. And you see this very strong pattern change right here that is evident in both of the lakes. And so we're able to then do work in both of these lakes and compare them in relation to each other, not only to learn more about the environment, but potentially to find out some differences in terms of how the system was working. And now that we have these longer cores, okay, from Lungo, Sottile, and Ventina, there's additional proxies. I've only talked to you about the pollen, but there's additional proxies that are now going to come into play and be used on these cores, and I'm going to let Paula talk to you about those.